Why am I talking to my mate Heather, I hear you ask? Well, here is why.
Murphy does herself clumsy, Sabbath offer. She puts a beautiful ball. She's in for a try. It's Ballinger. It's 18-12 under the H's with the kid to come. Shot.
It's Ballinger. That's why. Look, I've called this one done good, run hard. And that's not even her biggest try or her best hit. It's just the one I could find the quickest and easiest. Heather Ballinger played rugby league for her country, as you can tell. She's from the proper outback. Sedan Station, a property outside of a town called Yarraka, which is 850 kilometres west-southwest of Rockhampton. As a really quick aside, those familiar with the poem of Bush Christening, McGee's Shanty is actually there. She came from Yarraka, developed everything, and ended up playing rugby for her country. She won her spot on the Jillaroos while working 24-hour rotational shift work in the Australian Federal Police. That's where we met. We used to be colleagues. She had to pay for her own travel, her own uniforms and equipment. She made real sacrifices to achieve her goals. Now, look, if you have any interest in football, in determination, in dedication, in achievement, and maintaining balance, you will love this interview with someone who I don't just respect and like because she's my mate. I don't mind saying it. I really admire her too. And you know what? When you hear her story, and you're going to want to hear it, you will too. But enough from me. Let's hear from my mate, Heather Ballinger. Heather Ballinger, thank you so much. You dead set, fair income, no holds barred legend for coming on Northern Vibe.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate. Well, you're a very accomplished person. And I'm not just saying that because we're former colleagues and, well, you know, friends, I kind of hope. I always thought pretty highly of you, but despite all the mutual mocking that went on. But you really have achieved so much in your football career. But I really want to focus on not just the career itself, but how you experienced and what kept you going, because you paid a lot of money and you made big sacrifices to get where you were. So, First question, I suppose, would be, is it true that you used to beg your parents to leave the Jenny on out at the farm in Yarraka to watch the footy at night? Is that fair income?
That is fair income. So we never had power. So for us to enjoy the pleasures of the TVs and the likes, the generator used to go on over night time. So I always used to look forward to Friday night or Sunday when it was free to air, because that's all we ever had back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And turn the Jenny on. I obviously begged Dad to leave it on, but I had to go and turn it off. That was the deal. And still be ready to get up early the next day.
Yeah, so it didn't relieve you from the chores. But for those that don't know where Yarraka is, could you tell the good listeners of Northern Vibe?
Yeah, sure. Look at Longridge. You're pretty much going south 2.5 hours drive. My closest town was Yarraka, which was 60 k's from the actual property itself. So we were a part of a property and a few properties along the Barcoo that didn't have power lines to the house to supply power to our property. We were one of the few that had generators. So yeah, pretty remote, very isolated. Wouldn't change it. Like I said, my schooling career was School of Air, so I pretty much stayed at home. Had Gubbies or Mum teach us, and then I went to boarding school and got into my sport there. So,
what was the name of your property?
Sedan.
Oh, Sedan, righto. And so you were on the outer Barcoo, where churches are few and men of religion are scanty.
We had the shanty pub on our property. I did.
And on a road never crossed by folk that were lost.
Yes, okay. And we reenacted that plenty of times. So.
Oh, fair dinkum.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, you've come from far west Queensland, in a farm there. and you became a national and state football player. It's almost, well, it's not almost, it is actually hard to know where to start with you because you played 11 matches for Queensland, 12 for the Jillaroos. I think you played for the Brisbane Broncos as,
Yeah,
yep,
2 seasons with them. So yeah,
yep, 2 seasons, and then you finished up with the West Panthers. I think that's true.
that's a local. We always had to be registered with a local club. So West Panthers was my last local club I was registered with. I
Right.
did actually register with Tweed to stay in the game to help motivate and educate and mentor others, but COVID hit and pretty much that whole border rules came in and it really impacted on playing and traveling because if you cross the border then you weren't allowed to go any further than Burleigh Heads coming back and I lived in Brisbane. It just by that time it just didn't work. So yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And you did a couple of, you did more than one or two training runs with the NQ Pride males.
Well, yes, I had to because the long story short there is that Cairns obviously folded. So I then travelled to Townsville in between my shifts just to play in Townsville. Then they folded. And then I was flying down to Brisbane. And in the meantime, I can do so much training, but I also needed to run against people. But so I had a couple of sessions with the Northern Pride. They really a fit man. It took a bit to keep up with them, but they also appreciated my willingness to get in there and not be afraid because they were blokes. So yeah, it's kind of good. So
No worries. And Heather, did you go easy on them? Like, yeah,
no, because I smacked one of them, and that's where they're like, "Oh, we got, we got high fiving you." So, so he had me running backwards, but I still smacked him. So
ah. Look,
I think after that, I'm like, okay, time out. I need a break now.
yeah. Look, I
Like I
think
said, they actually really toughened me up because we were going in for a test match against New Zealand. So with that, it helped me a lot.
Oh,
So
right.
even though they left me for dead in the fitness tests and things like that, they still encouraged me. I still didn't stop, and then we had a like run on each other, and yeah, I didn't hold back, and they didn't hold back running at me either. So it was kind of like I said, really boosted my confidence. So when I went down to my test match against New Zealand, I was more than ready for it. So,
Well, more sweat on the training field, less sweat on the less blood on the football field,
yeah,
I suppose.
yeah.
I think your first game, and correct me if I'm wrong, for Queensland was in 2009. And I'm really keen to hear about that. But could you tell me about your 2012 State of Origin win? I think you won Player of the Match for that one.
Yes, I did. I had a pretty rough start. I finally got named in '07. But then I went and tore my ACL. So that dropped me out of '08. They rang me up to see if I wanted to play in the World Cup in '08, and I just wasn't in a position where I was comfortable, especially at that level, to be running at fit girls like that. So I declined that offer purely to get myself 100% right come the following year when I kicked off again, which was my 2009 State of Origin. Nervous as buggery, made my first Queensland side finally. And then, yeah, just sort of I was given an opportunity and I was playing well and truly out of my position. They had me in the centres and I just didn't like it. And they said, hey, do you want to go front row? I said, absolutely, give it to me. And I proved myself then in '09 and obviously just grew from there. So got better and better as I got older, apparently. So
So look, your debut national game, I think, was in 2011 against Samoa. Is that correct?
yeah, so they didn't run any more test matches after '09, gearing up for the World Cup for the very first time, which was over in England. So obviously money everywhere was very tight, and then that's when Graham came in and took us under his wing, and we went over to Samoa for the very first time, playing with our name on our jersey. I've got my jersey framed here at the moment. So that was, yeah, went over there and had my first debut for Australia against Samoa, and that was interesting.
Yeah. And look, where else is it taking you in the world?
Um, Over to England, New Zealand, obviously Australia itself, Sydney, Brisbane, been up to Townsville as well. So yeah, New Zealand. I think I already said that. So yeah, it's been like it's great. I got to see. I've never thought I'd ever get over to Europe, and there I am over there playing our very first ever Festival of World Cups. Because after that, the NRL actually started to recognise Women's Rugby League, and when we came back, they realised that they needed to do something for the women's game, and they pretty much got on board and helped. Because prior to that, I was probably that era, the last of the era that was coming through. We had to pay our way. So my first state of origin for Queensland, I had to pay for it. Very first time, made Australia. That was when Graham and Mick Hancock and all them got on board and pretty much funded it for us. We just had to get there. And then the World Cup was the first time that again they all got together and organised it, that they made enough fundraising that we didn't actually have to pay to go and play for Australia. So before that, I actually got named in the Australian squad that went over to New Zealand in 2009, and I paid $1,500. In 2 days, 2 weeks before that, I rolled my ankle really bad. And they said, "Oh, you'll be right. Just put on your boot, keep walking, you'll be fine." Anyway, 2 weeks later, it's still blowing up. I said, "It's not right. There's something wrong here." Anyway, 2 days before I departed, I went for an X-ray, another X-ray, and had to stand on my leg to put pressure on it, and it showed a fracture. And I said, "Well, what do I do? I've paid for this trip for Australia. I'm meant to be playing over New Zealand to play for Australia." And so yeah, I still went. I was just sort of water boy. So yeah, so I again missed that opportunity. I could have been there a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. Injuries come with it, and yeah, I've had plenty of injuries on the way. So yeah,
Mate, I actually want to go into that, but you've uncovered so much ground there. First observation, not bad for a girl from a property outside of Yarraka. But second thing is, so fair to get, you had to cough up for all this stuff yourself.
yeah.
Well, that's pretty
So
ordinary,
even when we represent North Queensland down in Southeast Queensland, like we had to pay for that. So there's about $400. And then if you get selected for Queensland, they'll then send you information. You got to then come up with another $400 to $600. And then once you get selected for Australia, you then got to come up with another. Like I said, I paid nearly $1,500. But these girls did it before me, and they did it a lot tougher than what I had. But I don't think people actually understand what sacrifices people did. And I would not say it's a sacrifice, but we did it because we loved the game. And we could then only afford players that can afford it, even though we had great talent. They just couldn't afford all these trips all the time. So finally, when we got to the point where it was all funded and all we had to do was get there, like get to the airport to catch my flight to Brisbane, it started to bring out more and more girls, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
We were starting to pick teams that were fit, ready to play, wanted to play. They weren't financially disadvantaged, so they couldn't come. So
Did that financial disadvantage thing make much of a difference? So, so how many players, without naming names, how many players just should have been in the team, but
easily 2 or 3 players, like that sort of stage Australia, 2 or 3 players, even Queensland should have been there. And they just couldn't afford it. And on the back of this, you got to remember there's also full-time workers and mums.
Yeah.
So unless we could find someone to help us, it was a real battle.
Yeah.
But if you really wanted it, you would find a way to make it happen. So
Well, that is a sacrifice. You said it's not a sacrifice, but it is. That's precisely.
Oh yeah,
that's the very definition of sacrifice, Heather.
Yeah, I just don't
like to
give
up this to get this. That's a sacrifice.
Yeah. I don't know. I did it because I love it. I wouldn't do it any other way. So that's me. I mean, some people are different. Some people would rather choose their family first. And I get that. I understand that. These calls are hard to make.
100%. 100%. Now, look, I do want to, I want to dive more into the actual career stuff But like, I want to go back a bit and find out why football? Like, what, I mean, what was it that drew you to this?
I guess I was very much of an active child in my upbringing. I was, I don't know, don't ever tell me I can't do something because I'll go and do it. Shearing's for shearers. The men, dad teach me how to shear. Um, so I don't know, I love watching sport and I love trying to play it at home. I remember like bowling a ball at a round log. So I didn't know when it was going to come back. And then, because that's all that was on TV was men's sport. So when I had an opportunity at home, I'll play on the lawn, whether it was cricket or chip and chase football to myself. Like, I don't know, I just enjoy sport, I guess.
Hmm.
And then when I went to uni, I played union. I've actually got a union cap for Queensland as well. So I got presented that last year. And so because there was no women's league as far as I was aware. And then went to uni, played union, joined the job. And when I went to Cairns, I wanted to get back into my sport. So I got into union. And then it was the same group of girls that were trying to kickstart the women's league up there. And they said, we wanted to start open a women's league. Would you be interested? And I just went, hell yeah. And I started originally playing, looking in the fullbacks to the centres, to ended up finishing prop. I had a dream of being a half, but I wasn't a half. I wasn't cut out for that. And so I don't know, sports in my blood, and I used to listen to the commentators and learn the game, and then wanted to go and have a go at it. So to my father's disgust.
He didn't approve. Fair dinkum.
When I did my ACL, he goes, when are you going to start taking up? When are you playing golf? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, golf. There's more money in golf than football. All you do is spend your money on football. And I said, no, I haven't had a crack yet. Like, I didn't even get the Queens and all that when I did my ACL. I said, no, I'm quite happy with leg. I'm going to keep going with it. Golf, golf, small ball. Yeah, no, it didn't work. I play it socially, but I like the team thing, I think. So, I just wanted to play rugby league.
And no worries with this. How am I going to frame this? Yeah, okay. I was talking to another Olympian who she's a softball playing. She played softball for Australia. And she made the observation that there's two types of sports, really. There's men's sports that women play, and she's happy with that. But there's also women's sports. So softball, obviously,
Yep.
for example, is a sport purely for women, and netball and stuff like that. Although no, you see a lot of blokes playing netball nowadays. I mean, just out of curiosity, do you think if you had been exposed to those sports, you would have gone into them, or like what?
Oh, look, at
Is it just
West,
a
all I had
sport
was
like?
netball,
Sorry.
just sport. Like, I loved the contact sport. And I guess I got more into it because it was like a release pressure for me. I could legally hit people as long as it was all legal and legit, and that would release anger and stress and things like that. I'm also, like I said, I was very driven by, you can't tell a woman they can't do what they don't want to. They can't do like a man's sport and all that. So I wanted to prove that in ways as well, saying, well, we can play women's football, but we just play it our way, like exactly the same as a man, but just our way, our rules. Like, we can't do the 40-20. Let's bring in this. They brought in this 40-30 or 30-40, whatever it is. So, I was just very driven for league for some reason. I remember watching Dan Lockyer and like all these great players coming through, thinking I'd love to be like them one day. But like, there's no women's football, so
And you've met a few of those people now too, haven't you?
yeah.
So
So
run through the list and tell me what it's like meeting these people. Come on.
where do I? Oh, at first I was very shy and standoffish, and I probably still am because that's their life, that's their job. Darren Lockyer, John Thurston, Billy Slater. Like I met all these people. Paul Gallen sat on his table for All Stars and things like that. Like, so like I can rattle it on, but it was just even when I had the opportunity at home when we went into town, I'd go at a function in town and I'll go out the back and the boys will be playing footy and I'll go and join them. To the point where I smacked one, I kicked it up, chased through, smacked him. Anyway, they played on and then we got the ball back and we did it and it was kicked again and I followed through and he dropped 10 meters before I got to him. I said, "What are you doing? Get up, I want to tackle you." He's like, "No, I want tackled, thanks." And we talk about it now to this day. And I said, "Thanks, Nicholas, it was you." Because I got him in that sweet spot in the rib cage and wounded him. So
Oh
my
yeah.
shoulder hit well. So it was a good feeling. So yeah.
Yeah, for you maybe.
Yeah, not me.
He's probably still in therapy. Like,
Oh yeah.
sitting there,
Yeah.
"Damn this girl.
Yeah.
She's
So
like, yeah.
yeah.
He's probably still talking it through. But hey, mate, with all those like big name football players, like, do you get the respect from them? Do you feel the respect when you come?
Mate, we're in that era of coming in. So some didn't really click so much. Others, did. Like Daly Cherry Evans was really good. I just found some where were a bit standoffish because one, we were girls. And obviously we're coming into that this is going back, like I said, way back in the early 2000s and tens and things like that. So
Yeah.
when we're coming up and getting known, making a name for ourselves. And then now you look at what the NRL's done now, NRLW, what is out there now, people rave on about it. But I'll tell you now, at the very start, there was positive and negative comments on the whole lot. So
Yeah, fair income.
yeah, I got sick of social media. I ended up turning it off. So but yeah.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that. It's like, what were people saying? I mean,
Oh, it's a man sport. Women shouldn't be playing this. Half of them up here because you're butch as well and things like that. So it doesn't help me with short hair, but I've always had short hair. I hate hair in my face. So yeah, man, I got called everything under the sun, even in my local league up in Cairns. So you just take it. I'm here to play football. I ignored it. And that's why I said that's why I like football, because I was allowed to take all that anger, frustration out on the footy field. All legit, all legal, nothing wrong with it.
yeah.
It's like,
Kind of
prove
like
us
being in the job.
otherwise. Yeah, you get out here and have a go. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, and you probably hit a few things there because even the AFP, when I applied for my leave to go to World Cup 2013, they didn't recognise Women's Rugby League, Australia Women's Rugby League.
You're playing for the country.
Yeah, and that's what I said.
Well,
I'm
in the
playing
green and
for
gold.
Australia. If it was a bloke, you would not hesitate one bit about approving the leave. Yet here I am asking for. I had the leave to go. I was submitting it, but it was during a leave embargo, and we didn't know whether we got selected until you go through the whole process. Anyway, they were going to decline me originally because they didn't recognise Women's Rugby League
Fair,
representing Australia.
fair income. In the green and gold.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what
So
I mean?
yeah. So it's the same thing as, like, I even got onto the canine course, and of course training would happen. And I was honest in my interview. I said, "Oh, I'm going away for World Cup." "Oh, well, when is it?" "Oh, it captured the last 2 weeks of the dog training." And I threw every option at them. "Can I do it all up to there, go away, come back and finish it off?" No, can't do that. Can't do that. Have a think about it. Anyway, 2 weeks later, the results came in. I won the spot. But now I had to choose whether I wanted to do K9 or World Cup. So after some long, hard thinking, I've always wanted to be a K9 handler. As long, hard thinking, I just went, nah, I think I'm going to play for Australia. And after picking up and going away and winning and all that, still meant shit at all because they re-advertised and I applied for it. I didn't even get a look in. So I pretty much got blacklisted. So I chose football over the K9 career.
Look, I mean,
So
to give the job its due, if that was a local football game, you'd probably go, well, fair enough. But in the green and gold, like
yeah,
fair dinkum, true God in heaven. What?
I had people like yourself arguing it with me, saying, "What the fuck is wrong with it?" Anyway, like I said, they ended up approving it, but it wasn't without proving myself again and what it was for. So, like, I'm not someone who goes and lies and take leave and do something else. Like I said, man, I want to go to my first ever World Cup. I'm playing for Australia. Like, I don't know what more I can say.
Yeah, it's like
I'm flying over with the team, and I'm yeah. So
if I say it slowly, like
yeah,
will that somehow make
yeah. So that like I said, there was plenty of battles. So don't ever think anyone's journey is easy. Yeah, it was tough.
so
That's where I credit Queensland police. They actually support more. So towards the end of my career, I then had to take leave just to play in the NRLW because of the high demand for what we were required to do. The first season I did it with full-time work. So I'll go to work at 6, I'll finish at 3. I then drive straight to the Broncos. I'm there from Broncos from 3:30 right till about 9 o'clock. I was doing that 4 or 5 days a week. So by the end of my 3 months, by the end of the 2 months, I was pretty fatigued. So I decided next season I'll take it all off. Anyway, took it all off, but then I was in a position where I had to work somewhere and no one wanted me because I was on 3 months leave for the NRLW. So I even moved into crime ops to make it more doable. I'm just Monday to Friday, more flexible to take time off. And then like I even got told, no one wants you because you're away for 3 months. I'm like, well, I'm only young once too, mate. So I'm like, whatever.
yeah, that's it. And look, it's a good
And
job, but it's only a job. Like it's a
yeah,
job.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I eventually I pursued with it, and an opportunity came for me to go back into the training arena, operational training. So I went into that. And by then, I'd retired from rep. So yeah.
But
So,
see, it's not just those sacrifices too, mate. Like, I mean, playing footy at your elite level, it's going to take a toll on the body. Yeah. What prices have you paid besides the ACL?
I fractured my eye. I broke my hand in the state origin game in June, and we had the World Cup in November, and we were still in that development phase of if in up until then, this was 2017. Up until then, if we ever had an injury, we had to go off and seek all our medical advice and help and all that. So, like any fracture or something, you go to the hospital, you get X-rayed, you then come back 2 weeks later to the fracture clinic to then determine whether or not you need surgery or not. So there, you're already 2 weeks behind. If it was a bloke, they would have gone in the next day, had a looked at, and had surgery. Anyway, so it was Origin. I broke my hand in just a standard tackle. 3 minutes into the game, I broke my hand. I didn't feel right. I kept playing. I came off at halftime. Came off and then got confirmed I'd broken it, but I had to keep playing that game. It was tough. It was hard. Then I went to the hospital, got it X-rayed. Before I left Sydney, the next day we left for Sydney, back to Brisbane. We were lucky enough to know the Cowboys doctor from the World Cup 2013. Anyway, the coach and all them who was right into it reached out to him and said, "Can if I send you this, can you do a referral for her to see a hand specialist in Brisbane when we get back?" I literally got back Monday. I had an appointment with a hand specialist Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I went up there, I walked in, he looked at it, he said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, mate, I would really like to do World Cup. That's what, my original dream was, the follow-up 2017 World Cup." He goes, "Right, I leave it with me." Anyway, he rang his the drug people, anaesthetists, and said, there's a bed in the hospital. Go up there. I'll be there in the next at 7 o'clock. We'll see you then. And my mate had parked the car and walked up, and I got old Joe Barrett, and I turned around and said, "Oh, don't worry, mate, I'm going into surgery now." And I just literally walked up to the hospital. I walked in, and the bed was waiting. Went in. It was a long surgery. I didn't get out till about midnight. Apparently, it was made a good job of it. And then they kicked me out the next morning, and then therapy started straight away. Now I would not have had any of that if it wasn't the fact that we knew the Kangaroos doctor. He was from North Queensland, from the 13 World Cup, and the a few test matches we got back. So normally I would have then came home, waited 2 weeks to see the hand specialist, then had to find someone. So that's what happened when I did my ACL. Then I had to find a surgeon to do it, and then when he could fit me in. And then, yeah. So all that, though, was out of my pocket up front. And then obviously the claim went through QRL. I then submitted all the receipts, and they then reimbursed me, but I had to pay it all up front, straight up.
Oh, geez. That's a fair
And
bit.
and you can imagine, thank God for a credit card, I guess, that you can imagine at that time, because I needed I had to fork out like $3,000 straight up. I'm like, I don't have $3,000 just sitting around.
Who does?
And then all the ongoing therapy costs for the hand therapist, I was doing every second day. I was doing it 3 times a week.
So
And
who
then,
took you up? Who took you up? Was that Butland, was it?
no, Joe Barrett.
Oh, Joe Barrett.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So good old Queenslander herself. So yeah. I mean, and there's another story with Barrett. We went over to Samoa for my first test match for Australia, and we were just in a trial game, and the field was just rough. It wasn't flat or anything. Anyway, poor Barrett broke her ankle. They took her to the hospital. Well, firstly, the ambo rocked up, and it was this troopy gutted out with nothing in it. They tried to get her on the stretcher, and then they threw her in the troopy, and then they slammed the door on her foot. Anyway, sorry, she's like, hey. And I get her to the hospital, and she's there looking at the manager and goes, "Do not leave me alone in this place." Anyway, they didn't have the equipment, and isn't another thing that we had. So they had an X-ray machine, but it wasn't clear enough. They X-rayed, it's not broken. Anyway, she had broken it. She then flew home 2 days later. So then we had the test match itself against Samoa the next day. And then we flew home the day after that. Her foot blew up. She was lucky she didn't lose her leg. She should not have flown at all. It was confirmed when she got into Brisbane that she had fractured it. Again, we did not have the experience, the knowledge, or the medical staff on hand, and we were relying on normal processes and go to the hospital and get it X-rayed. Lucky that she still got a foot. So yeah, so that, like I said, they were the battles then. But now I'll guarantee you, now they will have a doctor and they'll get looked at. Like even when I found out in the NRLW, if you had an injury with the Broncos, you could just go to the X-ray clinic, and then they'll just slip you in out the back when there's a spare slot, rather than have to wait at the front in the queue and everything.
Yeah.
So like how times have changed from that to when I used to have to sit there and wait, twiddle my thumbs, and then get there, get home, and yeah, it's all professional now. So it's come a long way.
I mean, thank God. But I would imagine too, and believe me, I'm a redneck, as what you know. But I kind of do recognize totally that the men's team would have had 100%. They would have had a team doctor. They would have had all that kind of shit. That just would not have happened. It just wouldn't have happened. They
would have had it all paid for and sorted. Yes, whatever it is it takes, we'll do it here.
No, but I mean, deeper than that, they would have had someone on, traveling with them on the team and went, no, mate, no.
And as soon as something like you shouldn't travel, they then will stay an extra day or two and then travel. But because we paid for it, or it was the trip was funded, they took the cheapest flights. There was no flexibility in changing it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we were just traveling economy class. Like we weren't, from what I saw from World Cup last time over in England, they were bloody A class, business class just about. Like we didn't have that. I flew over to World Cup 2030. I had Mick Hancock on one side and some other big bloke on the other side in a 4-lane, and I'm sitting like this the whole way on a bloody 17-hour flight to fucking London. So
Sorry, when I'm laughing like that.
I didn't complain. I didn't complain.
Yeah.
But Mick's big. He's got broad shoulders. You know what I mean?
When I'm laughing like that, right way, mate. Hey, like right way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I'm just, these are like, there's stories in it. Like you can turn it to, yeah. So glad when I got there. I was like, fuck that. It was 2 legs and they were like 12-hour each legs. It's like, and then you're sitting there like this the whole time anyway. And then I look over and there's like the 2 littlest girls are sitting next to each other and they've got a 2-seat window. And here I am jamming a full ride. And Steph was with me next to me as well or something. It was just big person, big person, big person. So yeah. So,
Look, could you even numb the pain with a few beers on the flight, or you didn't do that?
No. So, but yeah. So going back to like injuries, my serious one was my hand. I once in like normal standard MCL, I've done that probably twice. But once I got myself fit, when I came back in 2013, I wanted to get fitter. So I actually got into CrossFit and it turned my game massively. I loved it. I got my flexibility, my range, and I was just strong and fit, and I could play like a full game as a front rower. So, biggest advice I would give anyone is fitness is the key thing, flexibility, mobility. So, yeah, and then after that I had very little injuries. I had normal like massive swelling. Is it hernias or yeah, I did the old wrap potato skin on it, and wrap your leg up in it, and stick needles in it, and yeah, so just little niggling injuries like that, but nothing major. Other than, like I said, my hand, which is can't do anything about that. That was in 17, and then eye socket. Well, I fractured that in a local league game. So I head butted, it blew up, and I kept playing, and I butted it again, and got a little fracture underneath and got told you might want to slow down or you'll lose your sight. So I'm like, okay. So I actually stopped and rest. And then once it healed, I was back into it. So yeah.
Oh, guacamole. Mate, you better.
Oh, concussion. I had concussion really bad. 2 months I was off work.
Oh yeah.
That was in 2015. So that was big on concussion. So very, very supportive of that. Don't encourage people to come back. The slightest knock, you need to rest. So
okay, well,
yeah. So I didn't even know what happened. They didn't know what happened, and I just kept playing.
To talk me through that. So first, what happened?
Kickoff.
Second, how did you experience? Third, lessons you've learned.
So it was kickoff. I got the ball. I ran up, got absolutely monstered in a 3, just drove me back, and I hit the ground to the point where they hit me. I wounded myself. Like, you know, when you get wounded,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had that going on, and then I didn't even realize that I must have whiplashed my head on the ground. Anyway, I've got to get up and play the ball. Don't show my weakness. This is the first I can touch in a test match. And I got up and played the ball, and then I hunched over and I was getting watery eyes. I'm like, fuck. Like, oh, Jesus. Anyway, finally the sports trainer came out. She's, you're right. I'm like, oh, I just need to breathe. Just give me a couple of minutes. And she's like, no, you got to hurry now because I said, we got time. We're in attack. No, we're in defense now. Like, that's how quick it went on me. I'm like, shit. Anyway, as I was running over, I was getting a bit of like white spots in my vision, and she didn't question me or anything. No one knew the protocol of concussions and what to ask. Because it was after that we then did concussion tests at the start of every season, and they use that. So when we do have a concussion, which I did in the Broncos grand final, they tested me for concussion. I passed my concussion test. I didn't get concussed. I must have took a big hit, but it wasn't concussed enough. But that was how much it had changed back in 15 when we had nothing. I kept playing, and my mate realised I was a bit dopey slow. Anyway, came off with my normal half of a half, and then came back in the second half for a half. We won. We got smacked everywhere, left, right, and centre. There's a YouTube on it. And after that night, I went home and I was experiencing headaches all the time. My eyes were sore, like just trying to focus on things. Anyway, I just kept taking Nurofen and all that. Went home, still had a headache. Went to a wedding, go to bed with a headache. Had a headache all day. So I eventually saw a doctor, and he said I was concussed very heavily. What you're suffering is symptoms of concussion. So I was very sensitive to light. I always had a headache. I couldn't focus on anything. Just even for no reason, the Nurofen I was taking or any painkiller I was taking did nothing. I was just like, ah. And I got told I had to sit in a dark room, no TV, no lights, no reading, and just rest. So your brain's taken a hit. It's still in that vibration phase. It can't focus. You got to let it settle and go again. So I had to stop running. A month later, I still had it. And I even went into work and jumped on the computer because I had to write a statement. And then within 10 minutes, someone, Russell, goes to me, "You're right, you look pale as buggery." I said, "I don't feel good." Went back to my doctor. And he goes, "Yeah, you need another month off." So I ended up having 2 months off on sick leave because I couldn't even focus on a computer screen because of the light was too much on my brain. So then I learned after that. So that's why I can remember some things at times, and there's things that I can't remember as well. So headgear, I did wear headgear even before that, but like they said, it doesn't stop it, it just prevents it. So you don't have it as bad. Nothing could have happened. It was just a whiplash, I think, of the head hitting the ground after I got launched by 3 girls. And so I'm really big on if concussion, yeah. You definitely need to rest, and you really gotta it was hard because I couldn't do anything. Like I wanted to go out for a walk. I couldn't because it was hurting my eyes. My eyes would be like, oh, the light's too much.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was a big one.
Holy guacamole.
Yeah.
So, mate, how did you get through that? Like, obviously, and if you don't mind discussing this, obviously that would have been a terrible time in your life because you're a phenomenally active person, you're a very driven person. You got to prove to yourself constantly, which is the hardest thing to do, incidentally, especially when you have phenomenally high standards, which you clearly do. Mate, how did you get through that? Like, what did
I
you
just had to stay focused, stretch. Couldn't run or anything, so I'd do everything else other than run. So more stretch mobility because we're also, we're still open for selection for other things or all stars coming around and things like that. So, but as I said, they all knew I was off on sick leave. I sent them all the selectors and all them my information to say that. But I was just lucky it was at the end. It was May. So I didn't play any local league either for 2 months. I just couldn't. And then when I came back, it was a very slow process. The biggest thing is yeah, it was because it's just like, well, when's things going to change? Because at the moment I can't do anything.
That's the feeling.
Yeah.
This is going to end.
Yeah. So my dog helped me. So I just had to be
Your
patient.
what? Your what helped you?
My dog.
I thought
I
you said that. I was just
had a little ankle biter then. So like, yeah, dogs. My pet was my greatest.
Mate, look, if you don't, and look, if you don't want to, you don't want to. Like, mate, it's just a chat. And it's going to go public. Happy to cut out whatever you want to cut out. Mate, that would have been tough. What was going on in your head? But how did you push through that?
I don't know. I look back and I just keep thinking. I thought it was never ending, but it's not me. and I talk to my friends, and that's the biggest thing, is having a good support network around you. Like, I had a couple of the girls I'd reach out to all the time, and they'll check up on me and things like that. But it was just, yeah, it had its challenges, and I just patience was one thing I had to bear with. But then I was also doing my head in because, hey, I can't sit still. I'm not someone who sits still. I'm a very
Yeah.
proactive person,
Yeah.
and I am to this day. I still am. So,
Yeah.
but, yeah. So yeah, support network on the other footy girls, my best mates, was a big help. So that's my
Mate.
dog crying now.
No, no, no. Look, I would never presume. I've never been as good at anything that you are, but like, without going into the precise detail, I mean, you've seen my knee. I've got, the guy in the stolen car running into me and all that kind of stuff. I think I told you that story when we were working once. I don't know if I did or didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like the dissonance between who you see yourself,
Push.
who you see yourself, and who you are, what the self-image that you've created, and then all of a sudden all that's just taken away from you. It's like, I get it. I 100% get that.
I had one dream as a kid, and that was that I wanted to represent Australia in something.
And you did it.
And I did not know what it was. I loved Australia, and now I wanted to represent it. So, and um, that's little did I know it was going to be rugby league. So, and
Well, good on you.
then yeah. So
Hey, you did it.
I also had a dream that I'd love to have been a police officer, and then here I am.
Yeah.
Was I'm retired now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here I was, and I was achieving it, not knowing how I was going to get there. I had to go other ways. So yeah, and
And mate,
so my dream to play for Australia at something, and lay me dead. It's the one sport that I absolutely loved. So
yeah. And you joined the job, and like I worked with you. You're pretty good at that. I can attest to that personally. But okay, so this has been a phenomenally amazing journey, and it really has, mate. Like, dead set, good on you. But what's next for you? Because like I know you finished up in the job, and mate, it must have been hard. You must have been coming out of footy. You were busy as a one-legged ballerina.
yeah, it was. Look, when I hung up the boots and COVID stopped it all, it was a struggle for me because I was so used to training 5 days a week, playing on a weekend, having a full on agenda, just and then work. And then all of a sudden I just had work and nothing else. So righto, what am I going to do? So I got into training, operational safety trainer in the police force. So that was good. I was giving back and bringing the best out in people,
Yeah.
which is what I love doing. And then when I left, I actually took up swim teaching. I came out west to help the juniors football because I had no coaches out here. And then I needed a job, so I applied for the pool, and I
Okay.
worked at the pool.
So sorry, I know, but when you say out here, for the
Oh,
listeners,
sorry, yes,
context.
I'm out to Winton and swim teached and ran the pool as a lifeguard operator there. And then I moved to Longreach, and I still swim teach here. And I'm doing a little bit more with football now. I've actually taken on a ref role. So I've upgraded from the sidelines and doing some reffing in the middle to still stay involved. And whenever there's a carnival, I try and reach out and help the girls. So I coached the Southern girls against Northern in Mount Isa, in Cloncurry, where I applied for and got named the Queensland coach. And I'm taking the Queensland outback side to the 47th Battalion on the 13th and 14th of July and just coaching those girls there. So
You are
all I'm
not.
doing at the moment is sharing what I know, what the game's about, because out here they just don't have that exposure. Like I said, what I teach you now is literally what the NRLW do, what the Jillaroos do. we give you the tools, you go out and play your game. I'm not going to tell you how to play it, but let's simplify it. Who cares if they know what you're running? They've got to better defend it, because how many options have we got in each run? They're like, oh yeah. I said, so there you go. Don't come up with all these silly names like dog and monkey and whatever. Just call it as it is. Anyway, one girl came to me from Cloncurry and said, I only had 1 hour with them, training lesson. And she said, I've learnt so much in that hour with you than I've ever learnt on all the tournaments I've been to so far. So thank you. And I said, well, I'm here to share what I have so you guys have opportunity and understand that it's really not that daunting. It's very simple.
Well, it kind of is that daunting, actually. Like, I accept what I'm hearing is what you're saying is like, okay, if you apply these simple principles, you'll get to where you want. But it is daunting in so much as you're looking up a very tall mountain. Like,
Yeah.
it's a really fucking tall mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're okay. Yeah. It's like, okay, the principles are simple, but like, to kind of get there. Okay, so, and the other thing that I'm hearing, mate, is that, so you demanded high things of yourself, and you demand high things of other people as a coach, but that empowerment, like you empowered yourself and now you're empowering other people. So what empowerment techniques do you kind of like? What?
I never thought of it like that.
Well, mate, that's seriously, that's, and I mean, we're not as well acquainted as, perhaps that I'd like, or perhaps we'd both like, but like, I do have, I've got a fair degree. I've got a fair understanding of your character, Heather. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just, and it's not just knowing and working with you for the years that we did. It's like, I know people like you who are tough people from the country who have who just push through shit. So it's not just Heather; it's the pattern of Heather. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right. I said, and that's what I said. It's just how I was bred and raised. You don't stop. You keep going, and if something gets in your road, you find another way around it or to try and achieve it. And that's one thing I loved about working on the land, is that every day was a surprise. Nothing was ever gifted to you. Every day's different, and you had to find a way around it. Like, it might break the bloody digging wall, and there's none other to done, and you still got to finish off your fencing. So what can we come up with as a resolution to fix it? So, and I guess that's how I sort of applied it with football. Well, I want to play for Australia. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to get fit, and then I'm going to go and do this, and then I'm going to go and do that, and yeah. So
you improvise, you adapt, and you overcome.
Yeah.
Wow. Mate, fair income, true God, no holds barred. This has been one of the most awesome conversations I've had. And I think it's because we are acquainted. That's what's given me the insight, and the fact that we've been candid with each other. So one of the issues I have when I'm speaking to, and I mean every guest, I cannot think of anyone who doesn't fit into this category that I'm just about to speak of. It's okay to acknowledge that you've achieved things at a high level and kicked ass and done really well. Because like, as Australians, and especially you being an Australian from where you're from, you don't like kind of acknowledging it's like, oh, I've done good, I've run hard, and I've achieved this certain level. Because it smacks of pride, and pride is a sin.
Yeah.
But I still sincerely believe it's okay to acknowledge, especially if it provides an inspiration to other human beings, that you've achieved something, because it's like you're going, oh, well, I did this, maybe you could too. So having made all those necessary qualifications, which were totally necessary, because if I had just asked this question, you're just going like, I don't know. What are you most proud of?
The never give up, that never die attitude. So, I also accomplished the things that I set out to. Like I said, I wanted to play for Australia, and I had no idea how, why, what, when, where. I just told myself I would like to do that, and I got there. It might have taken me, X amount of years, yeah, and a lot of hard work. Like I said, I finally get named when I did my ACL, and like most people never come back from ACLs.
No.
So, and I fresh in the job, like I didn't exactly have the leave. So yeah. So, and I know I did my very best with everything, and like I said, if anything, I got better and better as I got older. So, um, to me, that's a good achievement to be getting more
Okay. And
matured.
mate, last question, before we go offline and have a chat and a catch up. What's next for you? So, like, you're out there, you've got all this coaching ability, you've, got this drive, you've got everything else. Like, where do you see yourself? What do you want to do?
Well, that's one thing I was never really good at. I can't tell you where I'm going to be, what I'm doing, but at the moment, I love seeing kids' faces smile, even though it's not the where I want it to be is in football. I'm doing swim school, but I mean, I'm giving back in particularly out here to the kids who never had the stuff that I ever had when I was little. Like we very rarely had a coach or anyone to teach us how to swim. So I like that. But on the back of that, I'm really pushing the football side of things, especially with the juniors. Again, and girls in particular. We never had that when I was younger. All the boys had was touch. Now we've got this competitions, junior competitions everywhere, which is great. Yeah, I'd eventually like to work for the QRL if there's anything come available, but and get back into that. But at the moment, I just had to get out of Brisbane. I'd had enough of the big smoke, so that's why I'm out in Longridge, just to, I guess, ground myself again, and then start really nailing down where it is I really want to go and what I want to do. So I'm still young, even though I don't look it. But yeah,
Yeah, no, ish.
yeah,
Look,
yeah,
I know I said that was the last question, but I'm going to ask one more.
yeah.
We live in a very anti-competitive society. This idea that competition is a bad thing, and you're just talking about setting up all these competitions and how that's like a good thing and assisting people out there. Like, believe me, you are preaching to the choir when you talk about the positivity of competition and competitiveness, both with yourself and within yourself. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. Within yourself as well. So, what would you like to see Australia, the QRL, and like us as a society, our relationship with competition? And I know this sounds like an obtuse thing, but like I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. We live in a very anti-competitive society. Make a case for competitiveness.
I know what you're saying, and it is true because it's not about the competition at times. It's just about having the access or the ability to partake in these sort of things and having fun. But you're also talking about rugby league. It is a tough sport. There's a lot of contact in there, and you can't go in half-hearted because you'll get hurt. So it has to have that little bit of competitive side in it. Otherwise, there'll be too many injuries based on the end of it. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go moving forward. Something I can probably sit down and nut my head around now. What I do, I see it. Parents are the worst in the juniors. Parents are the worst. The kids just there having fun, but the parents make it is where the problems half occur. So it's trying to educate them that it's okay to have a bit of fun too. So yeah, they always want the best for their kids, and then they think they deserve that they should be playing in certain positions. So you're just trying to talk them down to say, oh, it's good to be competitive, but it's also about having a bit of fun too. So
I really enjoyed that chat. Done good, run hard. Look, if you've liked, shared, thank you. Please continue to like and share. I need your help with the algorithm. So please get it out there. Please comment and make sure you put it on your own pages. And if there's any sports pages out there as well. Got some more great interviews coming up. Big thanks to Heather and big thanks to all the supporters of Northern Vibe. Really appreciate what you're doing. See you.